That's terrible.
And what we all voted for
It's
was
like-
to table it.
East
They didn't-
Lakewood,
but
the
they
next
didn't show
site
that.
could say.
If you get comments on the one up in Harris Hill.
And that's the stuff that goes on.
East Lakewood.
There's no such thing.
One by the
And I
thruway.
did get the Lucci's to sign that.
What's that?
Good.
3 of them signed it.
The one along
And then
Harris Hill,
Jude Ann.
that was a bigger complex. This is nothing.
Oh, I agree, but I got the same comments.
But it,
Oh, yeah.
isn't this one zoned correctly?
Yeah.
How can they stop from doing it? They can't.
I can understand the concern of, is there gonna be more,
Is this thing on yet? Before you get on it.
is this on yet?
Yep.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I covered it.
Power move here. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call?
Sheriff Thompson,
Here.
Rebecca Anderson,
Here,
John Colvin,
Here.
Anthony Morrissey,
Here,
Joseph Keith,
Here.
Stanley Giza,
Here.
Lawrence Forsman,
Korzaneski.
sorry.
He has to be excused. And that's it, right? Okay, this is a meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Lancaster. Please keep in mind that we are an advisory board and not a final decision-making body. We ask that anybody wishing to make comment do so in writing. The rules of the Planning Board only allow us to recognize the petitioners of the various projects and their representatives. We have a couple administrative items and then we'll get to the agenda, fairly short agenda. Let's address the minutes of the March 16th meeting. Are there any changes, additions, deletions, or comments regarding the minutes of March 16th? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, communications list. Hopefully everybody got the number 1 there from Town Attorney Fowler. While you're finishing that up, I want to introduce our new secretary, Sherry Guarino. Our old secretary, former secretary, not old. Is helping out tonight, and she's been helping for the last couple of months, and I want to publicly thank her for getting us through the last few meetings. Sherry, one thing we want to do is add, we just received a petition from Bell Tower Village Condominium residents. An opposition petition to the proposed development at Broadway, 5827 Broadway to 5835 Broadway.
Is that the apartment complex right behind?
That's from the bell tower behind it,
To
yeah.
the south? To the
To
south?
the, to the south, yes. So we'll include that as one of our communications. We'll talk more about that later. All right, anything else on communications? It's 7:05. At this time, I want to open the public hearing for Cross Creek Phase 9, the 6-family subdivision on 2.2 acres. Anybody here that wishes to speak on that project? Pro or con? Okay, last call. Okay, nobody's come forward, so I'm going to move to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next item is seeker for 338 Harris Hill Road. It is my understanding that the seeker is for the rezone of property to correct the existing misclassification that rendered the property non-conforming. Yes. All right.
Yep. It's also, are we doing the site plan at the same time?
Well,
I guess the presentation is going to cover both. So your decision will be 2 parts, I guess. But clarify that.
what we were going to do was, my understanding was we would do the seeker, and if the seeker
Yeah,
received a negative declaration, then we would actually vote on the rezone.
perfect. I assume you only want me to talk once, though.
No, you can talk about the whole thing because it all,
Oh, really?
all comes together. So.
Excellent. Okay, so good evening, members of the planning board. Ari Goldberg from the law firm of Barclay Damon for the petitioners. We've been before you a couple times on this request, but I just wanted to start by giving some additional context to the rezoning request. Prior to the adoption of the town's new zoning law, which is its current zoning law, the property 338 Harris Hill was zoned general business. And under that prior zoning classification, the property had residences that were permissible. They were permitted under the general business classification. And for whatever reason, during the rezoning process, the adoption, drawing of the new zoning map, new zoning code, this property was overlooked. Its uses were overlooked, and eventually it was zoned light commercial. And what this did is it created a lawful but non-conforming residential use on the property because the residences are not permitted under light commercial, which is what it's currently zoned. And this rezoning request, as you heard from Chairman Connolly's summary, is really just to correct that mistake and make this property conforming under the town's current zoning code. And just to point out how simple the correction is, even when the town board, for instance, declared itself lead agency, their resolution describes the rezoning request as, quote, a rezoning with minor exterior improvements, alterations, and to allow the current use of the property to be considered conforming with the zoning. And then when the seeker responses have been received into the town board and by this board, under their communications, they're labeled as, quote, rezone application to correct error in zoning and bring current use into conformity. So the point is that this is a pretty simple fix, and it's just a paper change. That means a change on the zoning map that makes this lawfully non-conforming property into a conforming one. And we do acknowledge that once if the zoning classification is changed and the property rezoned, it does permit the owners to make exterior alterations and possibly add residences. But only as those plans mature, we'll work with Matt Ficcione in the building department to obtain all the proper permits, and then if necessary, we'll be back before this board and the town board for all the necessary recommendations and approvals. The other thing to mention is March 7, 2022, the town board held the public hearing on the rezoning request, and there haven't been any additional seeker responses since December 20th of 2021. And so with that, what we're doing is tonight is just respectfully requesting your recommendation under seeker of a negative declaration, as well as your recommendation for the town board to adopt the local law changing the zoning classification of the property. I'm here to answer any questions on seeker or the rezoning itself, and I thank you for your time tonight.
All right, Matt, Apparently, this is a type 1 action, though? Right, so we have to use the long form? Okay. I want to just double check on that before I start on the long form. All right, I know some of you may not have this, so I'll try to be clear. Using the long form. Number 1, I'll give the topic, and if there's any question, we can go through the individual sub-questions. 1 is impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Yes or no?
It's a no.
That's what I would say, too.
There's no new construction.
Zero impact.
None proposed at this time.
Right.
Okay.
And if it is, it would be, we would go get our building permit from
It
them.
would
Right.
come back through us,
I think it depends on the scope.
but it depends on the size of the project.
That's right.
But
Interior renovations, facade improvements, things that don't change the physical footprint of the building.
Right,
Administratively,
that was part of the information package sent to us originally. So it's enough.
Okay, and 2, I'm sure likewise, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. No. 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. No. 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. I don't think so. No?
You're not changing anything, right?
Nope.
No
I don't think there are any, there's no water or surface
Yeah,
features,
no
nothing on the property.
geothermal, nothing, so, no.
Same.
All right. 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding. No. 6, impact on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. No. 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna.
I have a question.
Yes.
All right, so there are no physical changes being made to the property. So what we're supposed to be thinking about when we're answering these questions from the seeker perspective is the change in classification from general business to light commercial.
Light commercial to multifamily mixed.
I'm sorry, light commercial to multifamily mixed.
I didn't say the words at all in the presentation, so that's okay.
No, you did say I'm part of them, and
You can't consider subsequent actions that could be proposed, but the only thing, our change is just the paper change. The paper change does allow permitted alterations. It would be discretionary approval, administrative approval with Matt's department. But yeah, there's nothing in front of you.
you said all that, and it just I needed to hear it a second time. I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, don't follow.
All right, so impact on plants and animals, that was a no?
Right.
Impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources? No. 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. I would say no. It actually is, the action is making it more appropriate, isn't it? I don't know if it's making anything.
It was presented that way. It was what it sounded.
I don't know if we need to make a comment about that or,
The action is a rezone that makes no difference to any, it's to correct a zoning issue.
The proposed action, oh, sorry. No.
but we do have to consider subsequent
Subsequent
actions,
changes.
so.
I would just consider the language of that element that you're reading is, it says in sharp contrast. And I guess because we're permitting what's already there. I don't know if that's sharp contrast.
All right, regardless, it's a no, though. So I guess we don't have to say anything else.
I'm going through their form that they sent to us, you know, when we did the applications. That's what I'm basing my decisions on, and I went through it again just tonight, and there are no yeses on here on the environmental impacts.
Yeah, it's already an impacted site, and part of what's confusing, it was confusing when I was doing the application, is town doesn't really have rezoning on spec. You have to submit a site plan application with it. So we estimated how we could, if we wanted to maximize the site, what it would look like. And I think, and this came up at the town board hearing a little bit, but we could, I think, based on what the new zoning classification would allow, is we would be able to add 30 additional total units. If that's what we were proposing. That proposal is not in front of you, but if that's something you want to consider the maximum impact of this rezoning, that's what it eventually could.
Excuse me, you said 30 more units?
30
residential?
in addition to what is there.
Okay.
There's 10 there now, so 40 total. I think
So
that's based on building size and lot size.
That would be reviewable.
Absolutely.
And would it require seeker once again?
Absolutely.
Yep.
It would probably be another type 1 action too.
Okay. All right, so then impact on historic and archaeological resources. Proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource.
Well, they said yes on their form, but
If they're not digging, how can it be effective?
what it says on page 13 of the application, which they checked yes, and said, see note below, and he said, if the proposed action is within or adjacent to an area designated as containing sensitive archaeological resources, the EAF mapper will automatically check yes, which is the case here. Proposed action is east of phase 2 investigations for Worley Commons, which was across the street, where they were dealing with the Gipple cabin site. Now, hasn't that been picked up and moved?
Long time
Yeah,
ago.
it's not even there anymore.
Yeah, so the EAF mapper is a state
Right.
thing, and it fills out half the thing for you. And then I come up with that explanation as to why it was checked, because I can't change the form.
Okay.
And there's also, I don't know, my list doesn't show that SHPO was contacted as part of seeker, but the explanation is that whatever triggered that yes is not on our site.
Well, the yes
true.
was triggered by the development across the street.
Right, and that's,
And the Gipple cabin site, which has since been, what's the word? Removed to a,
Relocated.
relocated, it's been relocated, so the answer is no.
Okay,
But we did address it.
all right. Number 11 is impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan.
No.
No. We do not have a critical environmental area, so we can skip number 12. 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. No.
No.
14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. All right, anything there that we need
There's
to?
nothing.
no, it would be the same response, that there's no change occurring directly on it. If you want to check yes and go through each little box or sub-box under that, you can, because technically the rezoning does permit more units. But again, based on the comment Matt and I just had, is more units would come back before you via different action.
Yeah. 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
No.
16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants.
No.
No. 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. That's a no, right?
It's a no.
I would say that's a,
Double,
Double negative.
It's still negative, so the answer is no.
18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character.
No.
Also no, same thing. All right, can we have a motion for a negative declaration?
So moved.
Do you mind just confirming for, you've answered every question on part 2, no? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. I'd just like to know that because then there's no reason to do a part 3.
Right.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Stan had his hand up first.
Oh, sorry. He made the motion.
I think
Oh,
Tony.
Tony.
Tony made the motion.
And on the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, then we'll go right to the actual rezone. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. So at this point,
Nothing
we're going to recommend to the town board either approval or disapproval of the rezone. Any comments? I think we've kind of gone through everything we need to talk about. Well, Matt, do you want to say anything about this? No? Ed?
No, pretty clear.
Emily? Anything legal we need to talk about? Councilman Mazer? Okay, just want to touch all the bases. All right, can we have a motion to recommend approval of the rezone, or if you'd like, disapproval?
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the rezone.
I'll second it.
Okay, on the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I think that's our first official rezone since before the moratorium on rezones.
Happy to be the guinea pig. Thank you
You're
all.
in the history books, all right?
There we go.
Teed it up for us.
Okay, that takes care of our agenda. I have a couple things I want to talk about. I just wanted to get ahead of a few things that are coming up. As of now, we have scheduled the seeker for the motel and mixed use on Broadway and Bowen for April 20th, the next meeting, with the site plan review to follow. I've contacted Lucas James regarding this and told him we could either approve or disapprove or table it pending more study of this project. We did receive a letter from the town attorney regarding this, voicing his concerns. I think he was also...
Voicing his concerns, or is he voicing the town board?
Yeah, it sounds to me like he was being a voice of the town board there. I think you're right, Tony. Then we did receive a petition tonight, too. I have concerns as well. I think that, as Mr. Fowler said, I think the project does have promise, but I think we have to be careful. So I don't know if anybody has any comments on this. What the questions that Mr. Fowler asks is, has the applicant been approved for similar projects either in Lancaster or elsewhere in the region? Or number 2, can the planning board investigate whether similar projects have been attempted either in Lancaster or elsewhere and how they have fared? I don't know of any projects like this one anywhere, to tell you the truth. So anybody have any comments regarding this?
I have a question, Matt. Are any of those new houses, old renovated houses on Broadway, on the north side, currently like a bed and breakfast? A couple of those, not that you're aware of.
In the village, maybe, but not in the town.
Okay, so there's a couple really big houses on the south side before you get to the 4 lanes that were renovated, that, I mean, I don't know if they were, but they kind of look like they might be being used as a bed and breakfast type scenario. So if they are, I don't see how this project proposed here would be any different than what they're using that for. And it's probably less than a mile away. I don't know for sure that's what they're being used for, but I
I'm really
drive.
not too sure because there's some specific state standards related to bed and breakfast for fire safety and property maintenance. And there may be some zoning implication there as well.
What about
And I'm
RV?
not aware of bed and breakfast.
I don't know, I don't know if I should say this aloud, but I'm
RV
gonna.
and,
If the property is zoned properly for this, to me, this letter almost seems discriminatory against the project. I'm no attorney, but.
I'm going to have to add that, seeker review will be completed, but the project still has to complete their variance process for the zoning board of appeals. So
They're going on next Monday, I think.
they're going Monday, but seeker needs to be completed prior to the zoning board of appeals. Granting
The seeker needs to be completed before.
I believe seeker needs to be completed.
Don't we do this, don't we do the variances before the, we've gone back and forth on this over the years. I mean,
I would review with the town attorney's office, but my understanding is seeker allows commercial projects that are not simple area setbacks on residential lots, single-family residential, are on the listed action.
so you're saying they shouldn't be at the ZBA meeting this coming week because we haven't done seeker yet?
Prior to seeker, I mean, they could hear the case, there were some adjustments made to the project. They could hear the case, they just can't act on it until seeker is complete.
Could
So
you
they'll
check?
probably table it to come back here for seeker and then
go
hear it
back,
again.
back to zoning for the decision.
I swear we've gone back and forth on this before, and it seems to me like we like to see it go through the ZBA first before we rule on seeker.
I could forward you chapter and verse that makes reference to that listed. is on this.
Please do. Emily, could you check in on that
Yeah, I
too? And maybe there's some, maybe there's a gray area there too.
I think the problem was they were
Or-
their own seeker.
You have some discretion.
The zoning board?
Yeah, because of that.
Seeker's Thursday, too. I'm sorry, CB's Thursday.
Yeah, 14th, right. It's a week from tomorrow.
I'm not sure they're on it.
They are, I checked today. I did check.
Car wash.
They're on there too, I think.
The car wash?
Yeah.
At Central?
It was tabled. I'm not sure. There's like 12 items on the ZBA agenda. I thought the car wash was on there too, and the Dollar General.
We just received the updated plans for that project today.
And the Dollar General would be in the same position. They'd have to table it because we haven't done seeker on that. Well,
If
I
they
think
can't
Tony's
vote on
saying,
it, why is it even on their agenda?
Present the request for relief
It gets me
and
started.
public hearing.
I have a question with this project at One Broadway in the sense that I asked what the coffee shop was. And I didn't get a definitive answer because I'm having a hard time thinking about how am I going to address traffic issues with seeker when I don't know whether or not it's going to be another Tim Hortons drive-through fiasco with not enough stacking.
I think you have to make that assumption, and the stacking has been provided.
Well, it has interiorly, but that intersection of Bowen coming up with the right-hand turn people and the left-hand turn people and the people coming into the coffee shop and coming around and making a left-hand turn for westbound traffic to get in. I mean, I'm a little confused because I come up that corner on my bicycle. And the only thing I can do is walk across the street as a pedestrian and then ride against traffic because it's too dangerous elsewhere. I can't cross anywhere else. I go up to the cemetery because I can't ride on Cemetery Road, and there's no berm or anything, so I ride against traffic. And the only way I can get there is walking across at the crosswalk, and then be very careful because people don't look for someone going the wrong way. It's like riding the wrong way on a one-way street. So,
This is why access management is critical.
that's right. That's right. So I'm having a hard time with this concept. I don't mind the concept of residential units per se, but they're not apartments, they're motel. It's zoned right. There's nothing against it. I actually don't mind the thought of it as long as it's relatively upscale. But there's not tractor trailer parking, there's not that type of a use for it, so I don't know who would be in there. It's kind of like a, not B&B, what am I thinking of?
Short-term lease, Airbnbs,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
target market.
But when you rent your house or live in your house,
An Airbnb.
Yeah.
yeah, but what's that term?
Verbo, there's another one.
Sublet?
No, when they, like vacation rentals. and-
Verbo.
Verbo.
VRBO.
Verbo.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I could see the appeal to having something that close to Central with everything that's going on, but it's kind of far enough away where,
I mean, the residents in motels are used to be that same aspect. It was supposed to be a longer stay hotel scenario.
Yeah, this is, Tony, am I correct? These are little mini units with, I mean, they have little kitchenettes and things. Am I right? So they're longer stay units?
I believe so.
Yeah, so they're not the same as, the comment about a Motel 6 or a Red Roof, which don't have those things.
I don't think it's in this packet, but I thought it was in our last one.
Okay,
This looks like it's just the site stuff.
okay.
You just get that, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there might be some use of this if people use their little airport.
I'll give you an example. When I moved out here in 1990, and I was working, having a house built, house wasn't done on time, surprise. I ended up having to get an apartment for 2 months just to tide me over, because I had a place to live till the house was done. I mean,
Right.
and that's what it was. It was just temporary housing that I had to use.
So you're saying something like this might have come in handy?
Sure, yeah,
Because you didn't have a lease?
correct.
well, then I am confused by the letter, if that's what the intent of this is, because that's not what a Red Roof Inn or a Motel 6 is. So I kind of agree with the letter being off-putting. But I don't, is that the intent of the new build here? As like a, more of a long-term, short-term?
When he was here, he mentioned that he's kind of looking, his example was, there's a lot of other apartments there, and maybe people would come to visit, but they wouldn't have room in the apartments, so they would stay at this place while they're visiting. That was one example that he used.
Oh.
Just giving the example that he used.
Extended stays.
Extended stay, he called it.
Gotcha.
All right, well, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see at this point. Dave, do you have any comments? Or?
Well, I guess what we have to wait and see is whether or not we need the seeker before zoning ZBA can vote on it, right? Matt's pretty confident that that's the case, right?
And if we do seeker, that doesn't automatically mean we have to go right to the site plan review. We could, we could wait.
We can table if we
Table
have
it.
issues.
Yeah,
We can vote on secret one way. We can even table a secret decision
yeah.
if we still have issues. Like if we have questions about all traffic, for example.
Well, the issue.
What kind of,
Zoning could put conditions on it that may change the site plan. So that's-
Pardon?
I said zoning could do something that might change the site plan, which is why you wouldn't want to vote on the site plan yet. until the zoning was done. Because if they denied something, then he may have to change the site.
Yeah.
Matt, what ZBA issues is there with this?
Primarily parking setbacks. He's using a portion of the property next door and a location of the loading areas. But he's been modifying it along just to lessen the
So is it significantly under the required parking?
yes, you're paving right to the property line.
So I would say, yes, I would
I'm sorry,
say, you do
say-
seeker, then let the zoning board go.
Paving to the property
What they
line
gotta do,
without
when
the
you take care of the
setback?
site plan.
That's correct. He's on the east side of the property. He's paving onto the property next door.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
So both lots are going to require relief.
Why don't I get back to this petition? I might as well, while we're talking about this, let me. Bell Tower Village condominium unit owners are opposed to this project and would like the planning board to take the concerns listed below under consideration when considering this proposed project. A, proximity of drive-through to north side border of Bell Tower Village as indicated on site plan. B, reducing setback to 10 feet as proposed, being too close to Bell Tower Village north side property line. Operation of business hours is a 24/7 business, noise consideration. Excessive outdoor parking, lighting, proximity to residential units. Delivery trucks, running time, how often and at what times. Traffic congestion, ingress and egress from Bell Tower Village is already problematic. What type of barrier is developer planning on north borderline to Bell Tower Village? Resident homes back up to this border and will be significantly impacted. The residents of Bell Tower Village are opposed to this development project. As indicated below, we ask that the planning board give serious consideration of these concerns before approving this project. Okay. If nothing else on that, quickly, I received a call from a man who wanted to know about the possibility of rezoning property on the south side of Broadway at Schwartz. I know we had one of those before on the north side of Broadway and Schwartz. I'm not sure which side of Schwartz it was, but it was the south side of Broadway. I mentioned that a rezone there would be a tough sell. But if he wanted to come in to discuss with the entire board, he could. I know there's wetlands there, it's very low, and he said, well, they wouldn't be where the wetlands were, and he wants to put a storage unit there. I didn't want to speak for the entire board, but having said that, I don't think a rezone for a storage facility near wetlands in that area would be something that would benefit the town as a whole. So I was thinking I'll just call him back and say that I do not think that well, let me ask you, what do you think?
Oh, I wish I knew which lot it was.
Yeah, which
Is
side?
it east or west side?
Southeast corner of the intersection. Would be the northern half of the two lots.
So where the field used to be, where they used to have strawberries.
There's a small portion that's outside of the floodplain.
There is some outside floodplain between part of the field and Broadway. Is that like part of Old Broadway? There's that old road that used to be, no, in the field part. Is that? There's a piece of roadway there that at one time somebody told me was Old Broadway. Is that still owned by DOT or is that part of this parcel?
It was part of the parcel.
Okay.
So what's the current zoning?
Agricultural residential.
There you are.
My thoughts are,
That would have to be a rezone.
Yeah, that's what we said.
What is-
That's the big question.
We already have a comprehensive plan that provides space for businesses to, pursue opportunities in regions of the town like what's being proposed.
Yeah, but what Neil's saying, typically you don't rezone unless there's a benefit to the town.
Yeah.
And Neil's saying that he doesn't think, in your opinion, you don't think that's.
Yeah, and I'm asking for, I didn't want to speak for everybody, but,
I guess I kind of agree with you.
but I think this is one of those cases, if you don't want to make a decision based on what I'm telling you right now, he could come in and it would be a concept plan, you know, because he doesn't want to spend time and money if it's not going to be a go. So,
I think you'd also have significant opposition from the residents of Swartz Road, knowing the projects we've gone over before on Swartz Road. It wouldn't be advantageous to them either.
But you got a creek between them and the residences.
Yeah.
Are you talking about commercial storage units for rent
Yes.
or a storage unit, one building like a
Sounds like the garage doors that you
Public
rent.
storage. A public storage facility.
units for rent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, not there. It's, to me, it doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood at all.
No,
What have
I'm
we
looking
got
at
there?
it, it's a really
We've
odd
got
location.
wetlands, farmland,
Ag district.
You said
ag
this,
district, and a cemetery? Am I,
Yes,
no,
south.
no.
Across the street.
Across the street.
kitty corner.
Yeah,
Kitty.
yeah, my head's in the right corner.
so then do I have the board's blessing to call him back and say that I do not think this would be a good idea? He always has the right to come in,
He has the right to come in.
but we would bypass him coming in with a concept plan. If he wanted to pursue it further, he'd have to come in with the drawings and everything.
Yeah.
So what, I'll go ahead and do that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're disinclined.
Yeah,
We're disinclined to agree to this
all
concept.
right.
Neil, he called me first, I mean,
It actually,
you know, and I said, maybe we should look at it, or talk.
he did say that. He did say, Dave Mazer told me.
Put your lot first.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Just one other thing I wanted to talk about. Moving forward, I feel that the attorney's office, in conjunction with the building department, should solely be responsible for scheduling a seeker. I think I've gotten myself in trouble a couple times by giving dates. I think going forward, I'm just going to say there will be a seeker in the future. You tell me when the seeker's going to be,
Okay.
okay? And that way, we'll avoid any complications. And that's all I have to say about that. Dave, any feedback from the town board on the architectural review board that we discussed?
I brought it up in the last board meeting, 2 meetings ago, and they seem to be interested in it, or architectural overlay district or whatever. Again, talk to them about it a little bit too. You know, for certain parts of the town, they would be, you know, they would be open to the idea, like we said, just Bowmanville or somewhere like that, maybe outside of Broadway, outside the village, something like that. And they basically said, you know, gather some information, show us some other towns, and bring it back to us. So maybe something we want to look into.
I did look up one other one today, and I forgot the name of the town. I think I wrote it down, but
We can gather some information, I can take it back to the planning board.
yeah, that particular town had a planning board / architectural review board. So there's at least 2 towns in New York that the planning board also acts as the ARB. Matt, I can do the research on this, but I'm really not sure what our next step would be. And legally, Emily as well, I'm not sure I don't know the legalese and all that stuff, but can we use E-code or?
You can research the adjoining towns that have similar scenarios. You just lean from their local laws.
Just kind of,
Try to adapt it to what fits for everyone.
all right, I'll do more research. on
Did
that.
you find anything locally?
Well, Hamburg and Jamestown I did look up, but I didn't,
Okay.
I think Hamburg was they had the overlay districts, I believe, but I think it was the village of Hamburg that had something. I don't know about the town.
I just think the town might have something, but they've always had a planning consultant or planning board. I think they have a consultant that has been their advocate for better looking buildings than some of the ones we've had. I know they've always had a planner.
I know Town of Orchard Park has one,
Orchard Park,
and I wouldn't be surprised if Town of Aurora doesn't have one.
yeah.
I think Orchard Park was one of those towns that had a,
They have a standalone board, I think.
yeah, it was certain.
Fredonia might have one.
Yeah, Fredonia might.
Yeah, that's the college, yeah.
All right, Ed was going to check with Chuck Malcolm about the Stutzman and the
Siebert
Siebert?
Road Seekers. Yeah, my question my question to Chuck was, because they've both been pause decked, you know, what's the timeline? And as I thought, he kind of confirmed there isn't any. I mean, it's open-ended. It's in the developer's courts to come back. And until then, you just kind of let a sleeping dog lie. I said, okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if it timed out. It does not. Well, that led to another question from me to him was, can anything be done while the town's waiting? He says, yeah, the town can do whatever they want. You couldn't rezone it because it's kind of, that would be a spot zone if you did something like that, just because of where both those projects are. But there has been discussion about lot sizes in the R districts. It came up at the drainage meeting the other night again. And where I see it a lot is on the standard residential lot, 75 foot wide, which is what typically gets built. And then you tack on a couple of easements. The usable space of the lot is pretty small. I mean, we review the pools and review the fences and the sheds, and if somebody's got a couple easements, one down the back and one down the side, he's pretty limited of what he can do with his lot. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. The question would be, does the planning board want to look at the R district lot sizes and say, we're making these things bigger? Now, that does a couple things, and that you can do, even on Siebert and Stutzman, because there's been no investment by the developers. You can make those changes, and when they come back in to continue seeker, you tell them, oh, by the way, there's been changes. Same thing with the I believe, the wooded area overlay has been drawn. I think those sites fall under it. That's something they're going to have to address. But in more of a general discussion is the lot size in the R districts. Does the planning board want to look at that and make a recommendation to change them? If right now they're 75 by, what's the minimum depth?
75 by 140 gets you 9,340 something square feet.
Yeah.
9,375.
Yeah, and you got people building 3,000 square foot houses.
Sure.
I mean, it's just, and then, like I said, the next thing we're dealing with is easement issues. And, people are going for variances because they can't get the shed on the site and they can't get their pool on the site. And, that's quote unquote.
You get into with zoning requests,
Yeah.
relief from zoning.
Buyer beware, look at the lot size before you, decide to do something. But, I think, and I'm thinking, say you went to 100 foot width minimum on the lot. That's a substantial lot. And then if you stick a 5 or 10 foot easement down the side, you still have room to work with something. Obviously reduces the number of lots, but that's not the town's issue, that's the developer's issue. Either he'll raise the price of the lot or he'll go somewhere else. But, that would affect, currently, if you were to think about that, that would affect Stutzman, Siebert, Windsor Ridge, Phase 2, which is hasn't gone anywhere. You can change those lot sizes.
So what happens when there's, I'll say, a lot on a street that's currently undeveloped that then doesn't meet that minimum requirement?
If the map cover's already been filed, then he's grandfathered.
It's existing non-conforming.
Yeah, he's already grandfathered.
Oh,
for new subdivision, but there's no map cover filed.
Right.
What about Field Street?
Yeah, it would affect field stream too. Yeah, anything with no map cover filed, it would have, you could do what you need to. You do what you want, make the change. You know, field stream's a separate issue. The issue you've got from Erie County, highway, and I think this board is agreeing, is that the driveways on William.
They don't want any.
They don't want any. You know, it's their
And
road.
I agree.
It's their road, so.
I watched those people with their driveways on William Street at Lake, and that whole section along there, and they're tight, you know?
So I was a little bit, to be honest with you, I was always under the assumption that once an application was made, you couldn't do anything to change it, you know, to the detriment of the applicant. And Chuck said that is not the case. The developer has to have a substantial investment, meaning dollars, moving earth, you know, putting in roads.
He has to have physical investment, not just,
Well, yeah, I mean, to get to the numbers Chuck was talking, it would be physical, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, not just the engineering.
well, that makes sense to me, because I think some of these lots are just too tight.
Well, they are, especially when you throw the easements on there, and like I said, we deal with it constantly about, you know, people trying to squeeze stuff in.
Just out of curiosity, do we know what the middle lot width is for Clarence?
I do not.
They'll vary by.
Depending on where it is?
Yeah, they have different
There's
residential
several
districts.
different residential districts that will provide different widths.
They have acreage too, don't they? Don't they have 5 acre zoning where there's no sewers?
They're for septic, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we're at 3 acres, I think, for septic, which is, for septic,
For 3?
that's a pretty good sized lot.
Right now, it's 3 acres?
Yeah, they're
300 foot by 3 acres.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're fine, AR, we're fine.
Glad my house has been there for 10 years.
Matt, anything else? Ed?
No,
Dave? Anybody else?
Just the car wash, I know that there's different people on the CDA thinking different, various.
You know, I'm not 100% sure if that's on or not. I think it was on and they tabled it, but I'm not sure if it's coming back right away or not. But, yeah, that's the one that they want 7 variances.
6 or 7 various.
Just speaking of car washes, I went up Transit with a new light at the Delta there. And I've noticed that traffic has much better gaps when people get stopped. I'm seeing people being able to pull out of, like Value, for example, without being, I mean, it's breaking up traffic a little bit, so I'm just saying, you know, I hate more lights. As much as we don't like more lights, it is making it easier to get out.
yeah, and that's the other, speaking of that, because the access management is still being looked at and talked about, but that is, you know, we said that once that light went in, you got to stop it and see what that kind of gap.
See what's
caused.
happening.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, it will change a little bit. But there's still the issue of making the connection to South Benora. And, you know,
It's a
that's something,
possibility.
that's something I would think would come as a recommendation from this board to the town board to look at it probably.
I hate it. I hate that idea.
Okay, if there's nothing else,
Motion to adjourn?
was that a motion?
It's a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Sherry. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Sherry. Good seeing you, Cindy. Yeah. You better show up. Now that you're the one making me do this. You're making me do this. You don't have to wait. You can come anytime. But right now I see dirt.
Yeah, state environmental.
I should have said something.
Daffodils are gonna be good this year, though.
I meant to explain it, but I,
She makes me feel garden water.
How many people are on your petition? I didn't
I've
read
done it
it.
for 20 years, but she,
Really?
They do it as,
depending on who you are. Garden water.
Like, you need to keep
I give you a
because there are a number, I'll come back and
It's like,
the third one, I'm coming up. I don't know the date.
Well, you can keep submitting it, Annie, because this is going to go on for a while.
yeah, well,